All right, what's next on the list?
I like the goal orientation one. There's different ways to think about goal orientations, and the most popular categorization scheme is that you can be learning oriented. So your motivation to perform is driven to some degree by your quest for new knowledge and growth and development. And that's good for you because not only is it intellectually stimulating and fulfilling, you know that that's going to help you acquire the knowledge, skills, and abilities that you need to be competitive and to be at the top of your game. And people can be compelled for that reason. But then on the other hand, people are also compelled to engage in what's called a performance orientation. And you want to prove to others that you're the best and that you can do it and that you're competent. So learning orientation versus performance orientation, and that performance orientation can be prove oriented. I want everybody to know that I'm good at this.
Right.
And then you can also be avoidance oriented. So your performance or your ability to show that you know what you're doing is partially because you're just avoiding the really hard things and you're only doing the things that you think are going to help you look good. So a lot of times when teams get together, very different performance orientations going on, and it creates a lot of problems. So those that are learning oriented, I have my students do this anytime they do a group project. The students that are learning oriented, they tend to annoy the performance oriented folks because they want to slow down, they ask a lot of questions, they want to do extra things that they know are going to help them in some way. And that's what you want, right? I want them to learn, not just try to get an A. But if you kind of transplant that into the real world, sometimes people think, you know what? I just got to get this done because there's a deliverable at this time and my boss is, over my shoulder saying, get this done and get it done right now. I don't have time to engage in this learning orientation. That's nice and maybe in a different thing, but not now. And so I do see a lot of people kind of having conflict for those reasons. I'm high on learning orientation. I mean, I will spend extra time because I find it interesting and fulfilling, but that can also kind of get me into trouble sometimes because I kind of go down the rabbit hole and I didn't necessarily accomplish the goal that I meant to, in that specific moment. So what are you? What do you think?
Oh, learning, definitely. But I think our culture is not okay with that. Like the education system is very much like, get the paper done, get it done on this time, and like I became like performance oriented through being American, And so I actually I remember, I have so many memories in my life of like going down a rabbit trail of just like, Googling things and learning stuff and being like, this is so interesting.
That's
I
right.
really should stop. I really need to stop. I really need to get back to, I really need to like deliver and like finish and like, I guess I can't tell anyone that I just learned something really cool. And it just this tension in my body. And I remember I took StrengthsFinder when I was like 23 years old and my first job out of college. And I was so embarrassed by my results because my results were intellection, input, learner, connectedness, which is a relational strength, but it's strategic. It's about how do you connect all the dots of things.
That's right.
And and strategic is my other one. So it's all thinking strengths, and it was the results are you love to sit alone and think. You have debates inside your head. You love to take in new information. You don't know if or when you'll ever use it, but maybe it'll be helpful someday.
That's right.
And I was like, you know what? So I get nothing done. That's what this told me.
That's kind of cool. Yeah.
I can't perform, and so I definitely know I tend towards the learning side, but I feel so much. Requirement to be a performer, right?
Yeah, right.
And
for others and for the community that is that you're supporting, and that's great.
And I think it's not okay to be a learner in our culture. What do you think?
I think that having a learning orientation should be a given. I think those that do have a learning orientation in the long term will be more fulfilled and will be more successful. I mean, we are in the stage of economy development where we're moving farther and farther towards this extreme of knowledge worker. And the more that you can learn, the more you're raising your own capital in terms of potential competitive advantage. So individually, it is important. But when you're within a system, of a team or an organization that has deadlines and OKRs and it needs to have things done on certain times, you have to be careful because you still need to make sure that you're taking on projects that you don't have a high risk of failure, right? So that's having a little bit of performance orientation of avoid. And you also have to make sure that you deliver and you deliver well. So performance orientation that is focused on proving that you can do it. So I think you got to be balanced. And it's good to have the learning orientation, but it also recognizing that you just sometimes need to deliver.
I love the language that you're putting to this because it's basically like recognize what is necessary in the moment and give yourself permission for when to flex to which side of it.
Yes,
right?
I agree.
Which is such a stress reducer to say like, you know what, in this moment, I need to perform. I got to get it done. You know what, in this moment, we have space. I need to learn so that in the long run, we can be successful still. So like, I'm going to take the time to not check my email and read a bunch of articles about product-led growth strategies, right? Like, and just take in what I take in. There's no output right now, and that's okay. Like, this is a moment where that's okay.
And I think organizations need to get better at helping employees make that balance and make that decision. Employees are more likely going to stick around for the long haul when you're encouraging them to do the things that they find fulfilling, they find interesting, and that are helping them grow, learn, and develop.
Right.
If you're giving them the space and giving them the projects to flex that learning orientation, they're going to love that.
Okay, so does everyone have both?
I don't think that everyone is high on both.
Okay.
But I do think that in general, everyone is relatively moderate on almost all three, and then they tend to be high on one or two additional. Yeah. So like, I have this group project that I've done with students for years, and they always have to show up and take this goal orientation assessment, as well as a variety of other assessments. And they have to then put in their individual scores, and then they have to plug in all the individual scores within a spreadsheet so that everybody in their team can see it. And then it creates this conversation of, oh, this is why you are so focused on picking a topic that is easy but not exactly all that interesting, low risk, versus this person who wants to go all in with this massive idea that's high risk, high return. It's going to take more time, and it's a great microcosm because everybody's got multiple classes, everybody has multiple objectives, and so how do we decide what the right thing to do is given everybody's mix? And these are the unspoken things that we show up and we're not talking about them, but in the back of our heads, we should at least be acknowledging them to then have a more thoughtful conversation.
Yeah, because we're not thinking in the back of our heads, well, I'm just more risk-oriented and you're not. Like, you're thinking like, gosh, you're lazy.
That's right.
Why don't you want to take on a challenge?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that too, because this was another thing I wanted to bring up. One of the biggest challenges with evaluating people is that we have what's called fundamental attribution error. So when someone does something wrong, right, they just didn't do a good job on something, we have a tendency to attribute the reason they did it wrong to them personally.
Yep.
When we do something wrong,
there's a reason.
The world was just out to get me, right? Like, it's never my fault. So that whole system of attribution is par for the course one of the biggest problems with working with others.
Yeah.
And that recognizing that we're all unique and that we all have stuff going on, and it might more often than not, it's both, right? It's the person and the situation came together that led to the outcome.
Right.
And it's just complicated, but for the most part we just say that person is lazy, that person is annoying, that person can't figure this out, and that's not healthy. We reflect on these episodes, and a lot of times we do recognize that we could have done it differently.
Yeah.
And hopefully it turns into a productive self-reflection instead of, I wish I had done this, I wish I had done that, and said, okay, well, next time, this is the way I'm going to behave. Because I think you can turn rumination into something that is more mindful.